Welcome to BSSK Radio. I'm your host, Onomi Shoro. This show is all about you, your music, your stories, and your voice. It's been a while since I've recorded a show, and we have decided to create a new series of interviews called University Life in Korea. Tonight's guest is Van Walker. Van, hello.
Hello, Onomi. How are you?
I'm very well. Could you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Van Walker. I'm from Detroit in the United States.
Excellent. And how long have you been in Korea for?
I've been in Korea for the better part of 10 years.
Oh my gosh, 10 years? What's kept you in Korea for so long?
I'm from Detroit in the United States.
Okay, fair enough. All right. So, which university are you teaching at?
I'm currently working at Woosong University in Daejeon.
Okay, and how long have you been working there for?
This is coming up the end of my 4th year.
Wow. So obviously you enjoy teaching at the institution.
Absolutely.
Okay. And if anyone was interested to work at your university, what would be the process that they'd have to go through to be hired there?
The best thing to do would be to look for the job postings at places like either Dave's ESL, which is like eslcafe.com, or profsabroad.com. Look for the job postings from Woosong Day and gather the prerequisite information first, and then contact the human resources coordinator, and they'll probably set you up with either a direct interview if you're in country or a Skype interview if you're outside the country. But the first thing to do is find the information and gather your paperwork first before you do anything else.
Okay, and what specific qualifications are required?
Right now, Woosong is hiring master's degrees in programs like linguistics, TESOL, English teaching, English literature, anything related to one of those subjects. But pretty much a master's degree is required nowadays.
So there's no way for any teachers to get into a university without having a master's?
I would think not. I haven't actually read this on the Korean law website, but I've understood that the government is cracking down on university professors and that most unis are only hiring masters now.
Oh, okay, so fair enough. And since you've been in Korea for 10 years, have you consistently been working in universities?
Yes, I've consistently worked against, especially for the last 7 years, yeah.
Okay, and have you noticed any major changes?
Generally speaking, the quality of instructor has gone up and the quality of money has gone up. The universities have really expanded their departments to include all areas of the school, not just English language acquisition. You're starting to see English being integrated into the different departments like railroad and beauty and cuisine and hotel management, obviously, business. There's really starting to expand English programs to be integral into all of the programs and not just an adjunct language acquisition program.
Okay, fair enough. And that's just a recent thing.
Within about the last 4 years, absolutely. I've seen it not just at Woosong, I've seen it at other universities where they've really expanded the scope of their English language programs.
And so how was it like before? Was it just a case of having an English class and then university students would just go to that specific class because that's part of their curriculum? Or how was it devised before?
Well, pretty much before, it was, like you said, it was just a language acquisition class basically for conversational purposes to try to help these guys improve their TOEIC scores. Back in the day, that number really mattered for you to graduate and to move on and get a job in the professional arena. Mm-hmm. It's still very important now, but the National Assembly here in Korea is making a move toward a test that Seoul National University has created, the National English Aptitude Test, or the NEET test, which is very similar to the TOEIC.
Okay.
And it's still going to be a number that they'll need to achieve on that before they can move on. So the way it started was basically you had somebody who was an engineering student who would do all of his engineering classes, and he would take this English language class so that he could get the good score on the TOEIC, or upcoming now the NEET. But again, that was a long time ago, and now we're starting to see more English programs integrated throughout the university's other program and offerings.
Okay. And have you noticed any difference difference in regards to the students and their English proficiency in the last 10 years?
I would think that their English proficiency has actually come up because of the proliferation of smart technology, the internet access that this country enjoys. I mean, right now, I think we're the most wired nation in the world, Korea is. And because of the obvious Western American influence, you have Korean kids now that are growing up listening to American hip hop and American pop and British pop. And that's starting to influence the way that they talk, the way that they dress, the shows that they watch. And you're starting to see a lot of these kids now coming up with, 10 years of smartphones, 15 years of internet access, and their English is a lot more informed. It used to be. When I first came here, it used to be the only kids that were fluent in English were the ones that had actually lived abroad. Kids that had lived in Canada, in the United States, in Australia, those were the ones who were well ahead of the curve. That is not so much the case anymore. We're starting to see now, local kids that have never left this country whose English is getting pretty good because there are many more outlets for it, especially digitally.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, there you are. Yeah.
I went off on a long tangent and I was talking to you, but I forgot to push the record button. So I'll repeat what I was saying.
Okay, do that.
I was wondering why you weren't responding.
Oh, yeah. We got real quiet for a minute.
I was saying that I've noticed that with elementary kids, a lot of them have, they can speak English quite well, and it's quite surprising. I've been surprised because I usually would think Korean kids who do speak English very well. I've lived in another country, be it America or Canada for a while, but a lot of the Korean kids here don't seem to have had that experience, and they are really speaking to a high degree.
Yeah,
so
they really
it's very
are.
surprising.
Yeah, it seems the younger they get, the better they are. I've actually had some kids that weren't probably 10 or 11 years old that were better than a lot of the university students that I've had.
Exactly, yeah. But anyway, so what are the benefits of working at Woosong?
The benefits of working at Woosong are, one, it's a large community of instructors. Right now, we're over 100 instructors. I want to say somewhere around 135 or something like that. So there's a very good chance you're going to find somebody that shares your likes and interests. I'm lucky to be in a kind of a garage band with some other professors, 3 of whom I met here at this university 4 years ago, and we're still together. So if you have a specific thing you like to do, if you're, somebody who likes to travel, if you're a surfer, if you're a comic book fan, if you like movies or whatever, you're probably going to find somebody like that at this university because there's so many people here. That's one. 2, the university does really good by the families. If you're somebody that comes here with a wife and kids, they will put you in very nice housing, and I can say that from personal experience.
Okay, great.
This university is one of the best I've ever been at for making sure that people are taken care of financially on time. Sometimes some businesses over here, and I've had this experience the other way too, sometimes some businesses are run, under the table or on the dodge, if you will, and it's not really well done, and paychecks could be late coming if they're coming at all. That has never been the case at this school. You get paid on time or before the holiday, and it has been consistent for me for the 4 years I've been here. They have never been late with a paycheck.
Awesome. That sounds great. Is there any useful information that you could share about the local area for potential teachers coming to Woosong?
Yeah, Daejeon is one of the 5 metropolitan cities in Korea, the others being, of course, Seoul and Busan and Daegu and Gwangju. Daejeon is really centrally located. It's one of the better places to live if you just want to get around the peninsula without spending a lot of money, because you're only an hour away from Seoul on the KTX, which is the Korean bullet train, maybe an hour and a half from Busan, which is the southern tip, and Daegu and Gwangju are not that far away also, and there's awesome levels of public transportation. Daejeon has a subway now. Seoul's subway system is, I think, the model of how a subway system ought to run. It goes everywhere and it's cheap. There's a lot of public transportation in terms of buses. There's a lot of inner city transportation. And when you're in Daejeon, you're no more than 2 hours away from anything fun.
Mm-hmm.
You can get to a beach in 90 minutes. You can get to Seoul in 2 hours. You can get to Busan and go to Jeju in 2 hours. You can go camping in the mountains in an hour and a half. Everything is less than a day trip away, and it makes it really easy to live here because if you want to get out and do things, it's very, very easy to do because you're right in the middle of everything.
Are there any disadvantages of living in Daejeon?
Well, one of the disadvantages is Daejeon is the smallest of the 5 metropolitan cities. So if you're somebody that likes a lot of nightlife, you'd probably be better off living in Seoul or in Busan, particularly Seoul. There are entire neighborhoods in Seoul that dwarf anything that Daejeon's going to have to offer in terms of, you know, somebody wants to go out to restaurants or somebody wants to go to clubs or theaters or anything like that.
Okay.
Seoul and Busan are definitely going to be much more culturally advanced, definitely going to be more integrated, definitely going to have a broader spectrum of people, more things, more interesting things. And oddly enough, one's north and one's south, and they're probably about as extremely opposite as you're going to get for the two big cities. But Daejeon does not have a lot to offer in the way of culture or nightlife or restaurants or shopping or that kind of stuff.
But I've heard that Daejeon is pretty diverse. I mean, you can find lots of people from Europe, obviously people from America, and it seems to have it seems to be a city that has a lot of, you know, technical, skilled people here from around the world.
Well, one of the reasons for that is that KAIST University is here, and they're the premier technical university in Korea. Mm-hmm. So you are going to get a lot of professionals from other areas of the world that deal with things like, I had a friend of mine that was from France who was one of those, literally a rocket scientist.
Wow.
He dealt with quantum physics and stuff like that, and he used to run a restaurant over near Chungnam University also. Mm-hmm. You will find a lot of that in Daejeon. Again, there's a lot of different people here, but the city itself is very much old Korean. It's not very modern in terms of the neighborhood. You're not going to see, like, for example, in Itaewon, you might see an entire neighborhood of a different ethnicity. You're not going to see that much in Korea.
Okay.
In Seoul, you know, if you get near Dongdaemun, that's an entire Russian neighborhood. Mm-hmm. You're not going to see that in Daejeon. You will see it in Busan, but you're not going to see that in Daejeon, even though there are, you know, there's a large community of Eastern Europeans over here, a lot of Russians, a lot of Tajikistanians, a lot of Ukrainians, a lot of folks like that. But as far as them all being like having their own neighborhood with their own restaurants and their own thing like that, you'll see that in Seoul, but not so much in Daejeon.
Okay, fair enough. So what things do you think people need to know before they start looking to work at a Korean university? Do you think there's any etiquette they should be aware of before they start, you know, applying for jobs, and if they get interviewed, things that they should kind of avoid saying, or, you know, just social graces that they should be aware of here in Korea, especially for universities?
Well, for universities, the big thing is the advantage over working at like the private institute, which we call hagwons, or the public school system, is that universities, you work a lot less than those other folks would. And so that tends to make people believe they're going to have a lot more in the way of free time. Mm-hmm. In Korea, they have a different mindset about free time that you would have, say, in England or the United States. In Korea, to them, to the bosses, if you're not working, then you're available to work. And coming from States, when you're off, you're off. And so sometimes folks may see a hole in their schedule, like on a Wednesday, and say, oh, well, I'm just going to go to a temple. And then they get a call, well, why don't you come into work? And you're like, what do you mean? I'm off work. And they're like, no, we need you to come in.
Okay.
It is a different mindset with regard to free time. In Korea, they believe that your time not scheduled still, they still have first dibs on it, or they still have a primacy on it, and that if they can contact you on it, they will. That's something to understand. You'll work more summers and winters here, even though most universities will compensate you for it. You'll still end up working summers and winters here. You'll probably end up doing some split shifts where you work one class in the morning, nothing in the afternoon, and one or two classes in the evening. The biggest thing to get over is the idea that you are an asset to the Korean university, and they will use you as such. They're not going to try to accommodate your schedule. They're going to schedule you in a way that accommodates them. And so that can be off-putting initially for people from the West. And generally what happens is, I mean, it's been my experience, there's two kinds of people. There's the kind that come here for 1 or 2 years, finish the contract and go back home because they don't like it. And there's the other kind like me that just figure, well, you know, it beats digging ditches. And it's not worse.
Better than being in Detroit, eh?
A lot better than being in Detroit.
Sorry to anyone listening from Detroit, but this is Vance Walker's opinion, not mine. I've never been to Detroit. That's my disclaimer. All right. Do you think there are any possibilities of advancement in your institution at Woosong?
Yeah, I would say there's a couple of ways to advance, one of which is to become what's called an interdepartmental teacher, or IDT. That is a person who is specifically seconded to a particular department, like the nursing department or the engineering department or the railroad department, and your entire job is to work in that department as one of their instructors. That's a great way to advance. Another way, of course, is because there is, you know, turnover at this university like anywhere else, you could try to be one of the foreign administration that helps administer the programs that the teachers teach. There are always, you know, opportunities for that occasionally as people move on, as they go back to teaching or as they go somewhere else. Another way to advance at Woosong is to propose a program where there is none. This has actually been quite successful, where certain professors with a certain level of expertise in an area have found that the university offers this type of program in Korean and there's no English component. And they say, well, why don't I become the IDT in that department? And, you know, the administrative heads get together with the Korean staff and administration and the vice president. They sit down and figure out if this is worthwhile. And it's actually happened that way, that people have created IDT positions for themselves where none used to exist. So those would be the ways to advance. There are also opportunities available through Woosong's, how do I say this? I don't know if it's a flagship school or their offshoot school. Woosong is in charge of a school called Soulbridge International School.
Okay.
And that's a business school that is trying to build a reputation in Southeast Asia as being one of the leaders in teaching advanced tactics for business for the 21st century. That school is always looking for people that have a business orientation, that like working with international students. You'll find most of our international students at Woosong there. Occasionally the job calls for a lot of traveling, but you'd probably need to have a pretty good facility with languages to do that, although not always. I know one person only spoke English, and he's traveling all over the place doing it.
Awesome.
And they also are now offering opportunities to teach in China and in Vietnam, and that may expand as well. So,
awesome. So that sounds great. Are you pursuing any of those advancements?
I don't have the time for it. I'm in addition to teaching and in addition to being a father and a husband, I'm also a full-time PhD student at a school north of us, about an hour and a half north of us. So my time is really full right now, just trying to get articles written and start a dissertation and keep a family going and do my own job at Woosong. So I don't know that I'd be a good fit necessarily for the upper administration, but if they're listening, I'd probably take the job.
Okay, so you really well and truly set roots here in Korea. Anyway,
Absolutely.
Van, thank you so much for talking to me today. Could you please introduce the track that you'd like to end this interview on?
Okay, the track that I'd like to introduce is it's a very mellow instrumental track called "The Scribes of Kerr" by a group called Melakesh, and it's really not representative of their canon of music, but the song in and of itself is awesome, and I hope everyone enjoys it.
Thank you so much, Van.
Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye, everyone.